I've been following Avery Howell for the last couple of years here in Idaho and just watching how she's taken the women's basketball game by storm here in the state of Idaho. I mean, you hear her name everywhere, and it's not just in the high school basketball scene, it's on the club circuit. And she was a McDonald's All-American. She's going to be playing for the Canadian national team. She's going to USC. She is a phenom, and she's an amazing individual. And today we're going to talk to her and get to learn about who she is and learn about her journey and hear about the work that it takes to actually get to that level, right? She didn't just end up as a USC recruit, right? She didn't just end up there. It took a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, as you will hear today. Early mornings, consistently over time, the compound interest effect of just consistently waking up early mornings every single day, putting in the work before school, and doing that time and time and time again as she continued to rise. We'll talk about how she handles the pressure and the spotlight that's on her now as she's become a more well-known player inside and outside of Idaho. And we'll be talking to her about what she's expecting at the next level and what she's excited for at the collegiate level and why she chose USC. A lot of good stuff coming in this interview. It's good for both girls and guys, any aspiring athlete that wants to compete at the next level. So just super grateful to bring this interview to you guys. I'm grateful for her time and her efforts to make this happen before she's out and doing her thing at the next level. So get ready. This is the Gametime Guru. So
what time is it? Game time.
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show. Want to give a special shout out to everybody who has tuned into the show over the last 7.5 years. Been doing this since 2017 when I started it in my kitchen in Meridian, Idaho, which is crazy. It's now been downloaded in 182 countries, all 50 states, all over the world. We've had guests from all over the place. I mean, today is no different. We're going to be learning from a high-level athlete that's going to share their story with us, and she's going to be dropping some knowledge. We're going to learn from her, and that's how it's been able to grow. So all I ask you guys to do is to simply subscribe to the podcast. And if you haven't done so already, leave me a review. So if you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to it on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. It helps the show get out to more people. That's how we've been able to grow this organically over the last 7.5 years. So as you guys heard in the introduction, we're talking to, it's a local hooper here. I live in Idaho, so she's a local hooper here. But if you're not familiar with the state of Idaho, which I know a ton of you guys are outside of the state of Idaho, you're going to get to know her name really, really well here if you haven't paid attention, because she's a hooper. She's going to be well known. And her name's Avery Howell. Avery, I've been following you for the last couple of years. And when you were a freshman, you're competing over at Boise. You've continued to just get better and better and better and better and improve in your game. And it's been so much fun to watch. But I just want to say thanks for joining the show. We got a good one coming. So thank you, Avery.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Avery, let's rewind the clock a little bit here. Before your freshman year, that's when I first knew who you were, when I was covering high school media with some of my business partners at the time, and we were trying to cover some high school sports. Knew who you were then, but I want to rewind the clock and kind of get to know you before that. Before you reached the high school scene here, talk to us about your background in athletics and why you chose the sport of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing sports. My older brother played sports, so I obviously did whatever he was doing. My mom played basketball in college, so was just playing from a young age. I played soccer and basketball all growing up. And then once COVID hit, I started doing all the online school at T3, just doing online school. I was in the gym before school, between classes, at lunch, after school. And then that kind of was the turning point where I kind of just fell in love with it and then took off from there. But prior to COVID, I only really went to my team practices and did the stuff that was sanctioned with my clubs or whatever for basketball. And then, once COVID hit, it all kind of just changed for me. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So talk about club basketball a little bit too. So when did you start playing club basketball along with your normal, like, I guess, middle school, junior high, whatever, high school ball? When was your first introduction to club ball?
I started playing club in second grade, I think. I was playing for Boise Slam, and then my third grade year, I switched over to Hoop Dreams, and I was there for a while. I think probably until eighth grade, and then I was at Meta Hoops for the rest of it.
Oh, sweet. So you got some big time names right there. Slam, Hoop Dreams, and Meta, right? Like
Yeah.
big time programs, obviously very well respected programs here in the Valley where we're from, but obviously now they're more well known nationwide. But I would like to pick your brain on club basketball. I currently coach club basketball. I was obviously an athlete myself back in high school, and that's been a while now, 17 years since I graduated. But I want to know the biggest thing you've taken away from your club experience, because it seems like that's like, I mean, you're well known in Idaho, but especially with Meta in the later years, people started to know who you were on the circuit and whatnot, and you started to really make a name for yourself. And I just want to know what your overall thoughts were on the club basketball scene and what you learned from there, and some big takeaways that you can take from it.
Yeah, I mean, club basketball obviously was a game changer, especially with Meta Hoops being on the Adidas circuit, just like getting my name out there, that really helped. And then just like brought in a ton of different connections. I met people, met coaches. Obviously, the Adidas Euro camp that I did last summer when I went to Europe, that was really big too. But I mean, I think just club basketball in general, like it's obviously becoming way more popular. More kids are getting into it. It's becoming way more like the kids that are doing club basketball are the ones getting recruited at a high level. Like it's kind of the path that you need to take. Like high school tends to high school's hard because like you don't normally get a pick where you go. That's obviously changing because there's like prep schools and people are transferring, which is fine. But I mean, I stayed the course. I was still at my regular high school, so I think that I really had to use club basketball in the few tournaments that we had to really try to make a name for myself.
For sure. And I want to know like your thoughts here. Like obviously you get good competition, but it's hit or miss with high school, depending on where you live. If you're in
For sure.
Idaho, Utah, whatever, it's hit or miss depending on like where you're at. But in club ball, sometimes like you get a lot better competition in some tournaments, especially depending on what circuit you're on. And it looks like, yeah, I mean, you guys were cream of the crop over there. Do you feel like it helped you with your confidence level, rising to the occasion, having to compete against top level talent pretty much every single time you played?
For sure, and I think it's just a big challenge because like you're playing 2 games a day, you're tired, there's coaches in the stands, and you're playing against the best of the best every time, or most of the time. Like obviously you're gonna have teams here and there, but I think that it like helped our whole team. And obviously those are like big challenges that I wanted to rise up to and just kind of show out for myself and like to make a name for myself and for like obviously to get recruited.
Heck yeah. Is there a coach from the club or high school level that made a major impact in your life, and who was it?
I mean, I'd say all of them, like
Yeah.
all my coaches that I've had, but I think definitely on the club scene just because I spent a ton of time in that gym, like at T3. I practically live there, so I'm just like the relationships that I built over there. So Emily Harden has been in the gym with me a ton. Um, Morning, night, whenever after bad game or games that I don't play well in. Every single day before a state game, we were in the gym before I had shoot arounds, stuff like that. Like win or loss, she was with me. And then also Ashley Gill, she was my head coach. So both of them, and then some coaches throughout just T3 in general. But then also on the high school side, Kim Bridges has definitely helped a lot.
Dude, shout out to all the coaches. That's super cool.
Seriously.
Dude, that's awesome. Name dropping some good ones there. You mentioned T3 and the facility over there. I got a mad respect for all the guys who run that over there. Like the whole entire the facility's awesome. I just Meta Hoops is great. Like they've done a really good job with what they've built over there. And they give opportunities to the kids who want to utilize it. Now, one thing I wanted to ask Avery is, you did take advantage of it. Like you used it. Like you used the facility. You were there. What was so people, they might see you and be like, oh yeah, she's successful and yada, yada, yada. Like they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes the casual fan doesn't actually understand the work that's required to get something done. So could you walk us through, so these aspiring athletes might have a better idea of what your training regimen was like? Like how often were you in the T3 facility? And, when were you like, were you only just doing team practices? Were you running? Were you lifting? What were you doing outside of just playing the game of basketball to get better at the game of basketball?
I mean, recently it's definitely picked up a bit because I'm like prepping for playing on the Canadian national team and prepping to get to USC and kind of being ready for all of that. But during the school year, out of season, I wake up at 4 a.m. every weekday. I get to the gym. This is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I work out for an hour 30, close to 2 hours before school. I hit school all day, and then after school, I go back to the gym for another hour 30, 2 hours between those time frames on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesday, Thursday, I had personal training lift before school at Fit Boise. So that was at 5:30 in the morning before school. Then I would go to school all day, and then I would have another hour and a half, 2 hour workout after school, and that's during the week of school. And then during season, obviously, I would have the same morning routine, and then after school, I had 2 hour team practices. And then same thing on the weekends, obviously sleeping in a little bit later, but another workout. Now, I lift like I lift upper body Wednesday, Sundays, and I lift lower body with my trainer Tuesday, Thursdays, and then I'm in the gym twice a day, every day.
Holy cow. Okay, so here's a constant theme that you're saying right there. Before school, like I mean, you have a pretty solid morning routine, regardless of what you're doing. That's what you've been doing. Like it's a morning routine. I think that's helpful for people to know. So if I'm an athlete right now, whether you're a guy or a girl, like take note. Like if you're listening to this on your your iPhone right now, take the notepad out and start typing it. You're gonna have to do that work sometime, and it's probably only gonna be able to fit in the morning if you want to keep it consistent. But what did that require for you to sacrifice? Or did you still stay out late at night and still get up early in the morning? Or did you have to like, sacrifice a little bit of friend time or whatever it might be? Like, what were the sacrifices you had to make to be able to do that consistently and put that as part of your routine?
I made really big sacrifices all throughout high school. Like I've been doing that routine since sophomore year, since the beginning. I go to bed at 8 p.m. every day, so I'm waking up at 4, getting 8 hours of sleep, which is what my body needs. Um, I'm not going to the late night football games. I'm not staying up super late. I'm not having friends over after school. Like it's kind of like a job, but it's obviously what I want to be doing, and it's like the consistency and dedication that I want to put in for what my goals are, and I know that I have to do that for my goals to pay off at the end. So it's sacrifice that I'm willing to make, and I don't feel like many high schoolers are, just because priorities take place, and that's fine. But yeah, I wasn't hanging out late. I wasn't going to parties late or anything like that.
Okay, that's gold right there. I'm grateful that you shared that. I coach the unsigned seniors, so I got seniors in high school that I'm coaching right now, two different teams and at the club level. And yeah, I mean, I try to share with them like what it's going to take. I'm like, guys, it might I don't know what else to tell y'all, but like that's what it's going to take. And then sometimes, Avery, we go to tournaments and I call it a come to Jesus game or something, like where they realize like these are the dudes who have been doing that for the last couple of years, and there's a reason there's levels to the game, right? Like they're here and we're not, because they've been doing the consistent work time in and time out, day in and day out, and that's what happens. And so I feel like with you, the way that I've watched how you play the game, there are levels to the game and you are at a high level, and there's a reason for it. You have put in the work. It's the compound effect of just day in and day out, putting in the work, and it starts to compound and compound and compound. Um, from the high school scene, just watching you play, I've seen you in some pretty big games over the last 4 years. Like you were in some big time games. You always showed up and played at an extremely high level. Do you mind sharing like your favorite memory from high school, one of your favorite games that you competed in, and why that was your favorite?
I think my favorite memory was I think it was my sophomore year district championship game. That was when we had like Ashley Banks, Ellen Nelson, Ava Oakland, like that whole group. That game, just because it went into overtime versus Timberline, and I had a pretty nice deal to put it to tie us. I got an and one and then made the free throw to send it to overtime. It's a huge atmosphere. One of the parents paid for all of our student section to get in, so we had like huge fans, just a really fun atmosphere to play in. So I think that was probably one of my favorite games, or just all three of our district championship games probably.
Super cool. Yeah. Those are some of the fun memories that you'll never forget. That's actually really cool. Now, I do like to ask this question because some people will look at it, like there might be some aspiring young females that are wanting to be like you. They look up to you. They're like, man, I want to be like Avery Howell. I want to be as successful as her, but they don't get to see the failures or the times where you come up short and how you respond to those. And so I think it's an important piece for athletes to learn from somebody who's been there. So do you mind sharing something like that, Avery, where maybe you came up short and how you were able to respond to that, even if it wasn't the result that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, with high school basketball, obviously didn't win a single state championship, so that's kind of that's like hard for me, honestly. But it's also at the same time, it's like those games were probably, or like I guess it'd be the semifinal games. Actually, not my sophomore year, that was state. But anyways, just being in those semifinal games, I think like I probably learned more from those games losing had I would have won. And I think just the takeaways from those games that I personally had, I think that have helped me grow and have motivated me, honestly. Like from one year to the next, the motivation that single game did for me, and to push me into my workouts and to give me something that I'm like, I don't want to be there again. Which even though I learned something from it, that's somewhere that obviously I hate losing. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing for me, even though it's good for me and you learn something from it. So with high school basketball, obviously those events. But then my sophomore year summer, going into the club scene, like after high school had ended, had really big hopes and like goals for the summer of like recruitment wise and what I wanted to achieve, and didn't really get those like those goals that I had set for myself at the beginning. Some certain schools and certain level of recruitment that I wanted, didn't get any of it. Was expecting it, didn't get it. And the motivation that it just gave for me for the rest of the year to go through my high school season as a junior and then to come back a year later, on the Adidas circuit, part two, and just, I mean, not part two, part one on the Adidas circuit, but, and just like kind of have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because of all the work that I'd done. I had confidence in myself, and I obviously made a name for myself that summer, but I went from my sophomore year summer not being satisfied with what I had done to my last summer to kind of prove myself. And that's kind of exactly what I did. But there was a flip that had to be switched, after, like, from one year to the next. So,
Yeah, that's cool to hear. Yeah, the flip, it went off because you did the work. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
and sometimes you hear that with athletes, like they flip a switch, something just goes, something flips. It doesn't always happen. Some of them don't flip the switch, but you did, and that's where you've been able to like see the success now. I think that's awesome to hear. And yeah, like coming up short, there's some tough games there. If I recall, wasn't the sophomore year, was that against Timberline as well in the state championship game? Was that the one that was like the non-call weird ending to that
Yeah.
game? Yeah. Okay, I won't get into that. That was the first year we were doing. That's right. That's the year we were doing the sports media scene, and I remember just being like, yeah, I was probably more mad than y'all were. I get so fired up with referees. I'm not. Everybody knows me. Me and the referees don't have a good relationship ever. I never have. And yeah, I just remember that. And it's cool though, Avery. What I'm want to get at there though, it's been commendable, at least from the outside looking in, because if I were in that situation, I don't think I would have handled it. I don't know how you guys internalized it or whatever, but I felt like after that, you just kept getting better, and that's all you can, like, you just kept getting better and just kept working. Whereas, I probably would have sat there and been pissed for 2 years about that because of an opportunity that was missed. And yeah, I think it's commendable, and that's why I think it's so cool to watch you. And you know, McDonald's All-American game. I wanted to talk about this. I just looked over here at my notes. McDonald's All-American. So we see a lot of athletes come through Idaho. There's been some really cool, success stories on the women's game. I've covered some awesome like athletes in Idaho from on the women's side. But the McDonald's All-American game, I've never actually got to have the chance to talk about that. Like, you get a unique opportunity to be part of that, and you had that opportunity. And I want to know if you could break down some of that and give us the insight of how it was like to be part of that whole experience. It's not just a game. It's like, it's an experience. It's a whole entire thing. So what was that actually like? What was like, I mean, did you get gear? Did they fly you out? What was it like? How long was it? Like, how long was it a whole week's worth of practices? What was the whole journey like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, great honor. It was so much fun. Like, I'm super blessed to be invited to that and being in a McDonald's All American. But It was like they flew me out, and I don't know if I think they might have just paid for my flight, but then my parents obviously came too, and so Ashley and like some coaches came, high school coaches came too. We were there for like 5 days, I think. Lot of like we went to some events, had some fun dinners, had a whole ring ceremony. We went to Ronald McDonald Hospital, Children's Hospital, like spent some time there, kind of gave back to all those kids and families that are going through hard times. Team bonding. We had two practices, and then we had one shoot around, and then had the game. So, um, yeah, I mean, a lot of fun, super cool experience, a lot of gear, a lot of swag. They like planned out what we were supposed to wear for each day, which was kind of fun. So we all looked the same, like we were all wearing the same Adidas gear. Met a lot of people, boys and oh, I'm so sorry, boys and girls. Met a lot of them. Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool. Like I keep thinking about it. I'm like, that's an experience, and not like that's the percentage of athletes that actually get to have that. It's so small, so
Right.
small. And then, and to know who it was, knowing that it was you that got to go do that. It's incredible. What an awesome opportunity. Um, I do have a question with all the like you have all the spotlight, right? Like as a young, female athlete, you have a lot of spotlight on you compared to like the average person, right? Like you're an athlete, you're very successful at what you do. McDonald's All-American, you know, player of the year. I mean, there's a lot. And then you're on the Adidas circuit for club. Like there's so much spotlight on you. And then, the recruiting to USC, all the things. How do you handle the pressure, Avery, so that it doesn't get to you, or does it get to you? And like, how do you handle it all around so that like I don't know, I guess maybe do you ever feel like you have to live up to the expectations? And how do you not let all that pressure get to you, I guess, to where it crumbles your performances, so to speak?
I mean, I feel like I know that there is pressure, but and I know that there's people that like have that pressure that they're putting on me, but I feel like I don't really I got it's hard to explain, but like I feel like I don't really feel that pressure. Just cuz I mean, I don't know, I just go back to my work, all the work that I've done, and like I know my goals, I know where I want to be. I obviously I'm the one that knows that better than anyone else. So I mean, I don't really feel like I have that much pressure on me, or if even if there is like something about like just the way that I work and the consistency and the dedication I have, like I don't really feel it to like an extent where it would like hurt my performance or hurt the way that I work, if that makes sense. But I mean, I've definitely had moments where I felt the pressure, but I feel like not to the extent where it kind of crumbles me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, you trust the process and the work you've put in. I think that again speaks to your work ethic. So I guess what I would say to those who are listening is take note of that, right? Like take note of that. We always say like trust the process. If you put in the work, you'll live with the results. I think that also gives you that confidence and that ability to handle the pressure because you trust the work that you've been putting in, like the 4 a.m. wake ups year in and year out, like the 8 o'clock. Sorry, the 8 o'clock sleep time, right? Like it's your bedtime, 8 o'clock. Like you've been doing that time in and time out, and you do the thing, so it helps you handle the outside pressure. In fact, you don't even really feel it because you just trust the process and the work that you put in. um USC, again, this is what's so cool for me is to like see like big name schools and the athletes, the young athletes coming out of high school getting to go to those big schools. What was the recruiting process like, and what was the deciding factor of choosing USC as the program?
I mean, my recruiting process, I'd say, is like kind of unique to most, just because most people kind of get recognized young and then like have coaches kind of contacting them and then they keep getting better and then coaches like keep following them on their scene, if that makes sense. But I showed up pretty late. It was my last year of club on the Adidas circuit, and I just first tournament, some coaches came and kind of just blew up, and then coaches following us the rest of the summer, and then it was just my phone was it was crazy. It was honestly insane. I wasn't expecting it, and it was like I kind of got a couple, and then they all came in hot and a lot of stress. I mean, looking back on it, I wish I would have kind of embraced it a bit more because I was real overwhelmed with it all. But looking back on it now, I'm like, like that was amazing. Like that was such a cool experience to go through. But um, so yeah, super fast, super sudden, ton of schools, crazy summer. And then USC, honestly, Lindsay, the head coach, I went on my official visit there and I just knew I was on campus since I was young. I've wanted to be in California for soccer or basketball. I didn't know when I was younger, but just the culture that Lindsay's created and the trust that Juju's put into that program and the freshman class we have going in. I've met a ton of them and we're all super close, and the whole culture of USC was just amazing. And as soon as I got on campus and went on that official, I was like I know. Like they say in the recruiting process, one like when you know, you know. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. Like when you know, going through it. And then I got to USC and I was like, nah, I freaking know. Like this is home.
That's so dope. Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know what USC's campus is like, whew, I mean, it's beautiful down there. So yeah, you're in a good spot down there. And then the program itself, obviously, you got the right coaching staff, you got the right personnel coming on with you. That's cool that you're close to your freshman class. You know, some of the teammates that you're going to have. What's the one thing you're most looking forward to? Like, is there anything you're nervous about going into the college game, or are you just anxiously excited? But what's one thing you're looking forward to, I guess?
Um, I think I'm honestly just looking forward to our team next year. I think we're going to be really good. And I'm excited for us all to get on campus soon and get to practice together and just kind of start off on the right foot. And I'm excited for all of college. I think this is the best time to be going into female college hoops, just with the publicity and the news coverage and just the media and all of it. I think it's a really good time. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, so it's funny you just said that, Avery. I was just actually interviewing just a little bit ago, former BYU Hall of Fame. Well, she's a BYU Hall of Famer from the '80s, but she was talking about the evolution of the women's basketball game. You know, just like how it's blowing up, and like you just said right there, you know, at this particular point, I mean, we're just about a month removed from Caitlin Clark's, you know, phenomenal run and all the things that are going on with that, and it's still getting some publicity there, some spotlight. And I'm curious, is there an athlete like Caitlin Clark or somebody else that you look up to as far as a role model in the women's game?
I think probably Kaylin Clark, just because, I mean, obviously the way she can shoot the ball, I think, is something that I'm trying to get to be like, especially with my role at USC next year. Like, that's kind of what I'm hoping, just to have catch and shoot, knockdown shooter. So definitely her, yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, Caitlin Clark. I mean, it's hard not to like her. I also like her attitude. So I think that's super cool. If you look back at your career thus far, right, and then the athletes that you've played against and the athletes you've played with, what's one specific attribute from an athlete that you've seen from these high level athletes that you need to have if you're going to compete at a high level, whether that's attitude, if that's being coachable, if that's defense? Like, what's something that you need to have as a high level athlete to be able to compete at that level, so that the people that are listening to this, people that are listening to this can say, hey, yeah, you can shoot the ball, but what else do I need to be like? If my attitude sucks, it's not really going to get me anywhere. Like, what's something that you've noticed that's congruent amongst most of those athletes?
I think consistency, whatever that is, consistency in getting in the gym, consistency in like whatever that is for you, whatever part of your game that is for you, whether that's 5 minutes of ball handling, whether that's getting to the gym a little bit early before game time to do blank, feel like whatever it is, be consistent in something that's going to make you great. Like pick something and just go with it. Um, yeah.
Consistency. Take note, ladies and gentlemen, consistency. I like that. And you know, we know Avery Howell, the basketball player. We know you as the athlete, the sacrifices that you've made. But I want to know, what does Avery Howell like to do outside of the sport of basketball? Like, what's one of your biggest hobbies? Do you like to read books? Do you play video games? Are you like, what do you enjoy doing? You have certain music that you listen to. What's one of your best hobbies outside of the court?
I love listening to music. I love Drake or like
Okay.
that type of rap music. Um, I also like to spend time with friends and family. Good Netflix show, binge watching. So yeah.
Dope. I like that too. So, prior to a game, are you listening to Drake? What's your playlist or your pregame ritual like when you're when you're trying to visualize and get in the flow, so to speak? What's your pregame ritual like?
I always listen to music. I just have a playlist with a bunch of songs on it. Drake's definitely in it. But most of the time before games, like I don't want to be too locked in because then I like just it's just like too serious. Like I kind of want to have fun, mess around with my teammates, like dance, whatever. But then I do like sort of get more concentrated, just do some breathing. Yeah, just kind of lock in a bit. But I always listen to music. I have energy chews before games, a little superstition. Yeah.
I dig it. Everyone's got their thing. I always said, Avery, like when I used to box, right? Before fights, I would listen to Michael Jackson. I don't know if anybody even knows Michael Jackson, but like of all the things, like I listen to all sorts of rap music, rock music, but when I would right before my fights, I'd always listen to Michael Jackson. It got me to calm down a bit and be a little less tense, and then I could like just go out there and swing. So I always like to ask people about their pregame stuff because everyone has a different way of getting themselves in the zone, so to speak. So you mentioned the national team. We don't need to go into the details, like nitty gritty details, but I'd love to like hear what you're excited about with the national team because you're like all these experiences. McDonald's All-American, you're going to USC, national team. Like it's so cool what basketball has been able to like what you've been able to use it for as a vehicle for all these amazing experiences. And I guess maybe just give us some insight to the national team experience that you're going to be going through.
Yeah, so my mom grew up in Canada, so I have dual citizenship thanks to her. And my grandparents still live there now, so like I go and visit them a lot in Canada. So I got invited to the Canadian national team to do some camps for them. So hopefully this summer I'll be playing with the Canadian national team in some way. Looking forward to that. I leave on Monday for a camp, so yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Let's freaking go. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go. And in the school, this is where we just want to get to know Avery, right? That's what the whole point of the show is, just get to know Avery Howell. But like in school, what's your favorite subject to study?
Probably math.
And why is that? Why do you like math so much?
Well, I used to hate math. I was really bad at it. Never like I was just never good at it. So then I obviously didn't like to do it. Had a really good teacher. Actually, all my high school years, I've had really good teachers, and I kind of just fell in love with it. I mean, maybe that's a little pushing it. I don't love it, but like, for school class, I think that's math's probably my favorite. I've had really good teachers all 3 years of high school. So, yeah.
It's funny. I actually loved math all through high school, and here's why. It helped me think through processes. I didn't always understand them. I thought they were stupid. I didn't understand like why we had to have certain processes, like to do FOIL and all these different things, parentheses, all the things that go into the equation. But what it taught me, and I actually transferred that into the basketball court and the boxing ring, was like there's a system and a process for everything. You think critically. So when you're able to like think through an equation, whether it's stupid or not, where you think it's dumb, it's kind of cool because your brain starts to fire in a way that like thinks that way. How do you solve this? You got to do a system and a process. So on the basketball court, that's how I was able to actually figure out how to run plays. That didn't come naturally for me. I had to like visualize things and understand like where this guy goes and when do I cut here? When do I set the pick? When do I seal the guy? Like all that type of stuff. And so that's why math was my favorite subject for that reason specifically, but I actually hated math for a lot of other reasons. It just helped me think critically. So
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I thought that was cool. You said that. So Avery, as I wrap up the interview, I just want to ask you, what is the biggest life lesson that basketball has taught you?
I think the biggest lesson basketball has taught me is probably just like to keep the main thing, whatever that is for you. If something is the most important thing in your life or one of the most important things, like keep that your main thing. Don't let any distractions kind of pull you away because especially in high school, there's a lot of distractions. So I think just trying to stay your course, trying to focus on what's most important to you, kind of keep your priorities straight for sure.
I dig that. I dig it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for, you're busy and I knew that. And I tried to hit you up, to see if we could make this happen. And you were willing to do that. And I appreciate you joining the show, Avery. It's been cool watching you the last couple of years throughout your high school career here in Idaho. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do moving forward and what the next steps are for you. So just want to say thanks once again for joining the show and being willing to share your story with us.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And for all those who are listening, make sure to hit the subscribe button because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.